snow. And it's fairly deep snow. For Missouri anyway. So gotta get these girls fed and milked. This is the feed upstairs. And it's kind of tight up here. But you can see that just gravity feeds down through those holes. Anyway, that's one of my morning chores. Pretty nice today. It's 27. The only bad thing about this is you can't tell what's underneath the snow, and it's rougher than a cob underneath the snow. They know it. They walk slow. I'm gonna have to put out hay, looks like. Mr. Rick here just hasn't learned that I'm here to feed and care for him. I don't know what's the matter with him. Haven't been able to scrape because it's been so frozen for so long. So folding pins look like a mess, but it's better that than them falling down. So if you're ever going to have an ice storm or froze for a long time, don't scrape. You quit complaining. I'm fixing to give you your breakfast. Just stop it. So you saw me shoveling feed earlier today, and I wanted to talk to you about these feeders. I got a message that it's been 8 years since we rebuilt this barn. And let me show you how it used to work. Some of you noticed that this was a clay barn, and you're exactly right. It was push button farming is what they called it. And you ran timers for each one of these feeders, and there was a little motor inside that spun up in the hopper that had a little whipper on it, and it would trickle feed down into the feeder the whole time that you were milking. The problem was that half of the timers didn't work and the other half of the motors didn't work. So we spent all of our time going up out of the pit and taking a screwdriver and raking feed down into the feeder. Every round we had to do that. So we decided we needed to do something different. All of these feeders were in bad repair, so we bought another barn and we mixed and matched parts until we had all good feeders. We took all the bent metal out and we put these bars in so that there was a little more air for the cows to breathe, especially in the heat of summer. And all these clay hoppers were rotten. There was holes in them, and the previous owner had put paper towels in the holes, and that didn't work very well because the cows would come along and they would eat the paper towel, and it's a gravity feed, and it would just run and run and run until you let this set of cows out and could come plug the hole again. And sometimes you'd shovel 3-4 buckets of feed out of the floor. So we started looking for options, and I got the Delaval dealer out here, and he quoted me a price of $14,000 a side to fix this, and so we didn't do that. So I asked him if there was anybody that made feeders, and he said, yes, there is. There's a guy named York Hughes. And so I called him up and I said, Mr. Hughes, I hear you make feeders. He said, yeah. I said, I need a set of feeders for my barn. And he said, well, he said, I'm on hospice and I can't do it. And I said, well, I understand. So a few days later, he called me and he said, you know what? He says, I think I'm going to make your feeders. He said, I think I can get my grandson to help me. He said, I think we can do it. He said, why don't you come over and see what I make, and we'll see what we need to build to fit your barn. So he showed me. He had one of these feeders already made up, and you can tell that this is 2 feeders put together. He had one made up, and we did the measurements, and the only thing I needed to do different was put this little piece of wood in there to fill in the difference of what the old hoppers were and what he was making. So there was 3 holes in my ceiling, and I didn't want to put 6. So we just butted these 2 feeders together and stuffed them up inside the hole, and one hole feeds both of them. When it's mounted up like that, it'll last me about 3 milkings really easy, maybe 4. The way Mr. York Hughes designed these feeders is there's a flapper in there, and it's made special so the feed doesn't get caught, and it flips back and forth, and every time you pull the handle, which are these handles right here, you get 5 pounds of feed. It's all mechanical workings with pulleys and cables. He got his grandson to help him, even though he was on hospice, and he built my feeders. And I was thinking, oh man, I hope he gets through this. I hope he doesn't get hurt. And I would just feel awful if anything happens to him while he's building these feeders. But he got them all done, and he called me and he said, come pick him up. And here's a picture of when we picked him up. And I installed them, and we've been running them now for 8 years. After 8 years, these things have run 12,048 tons through them, roughly 2.5 million pounds, or 62 semi-loads. They've been each pulled about 85,000 times, and the only thing I've had to do was replace some springs and a couple of glasses. The feeders are still going. The amazing part of this story is that I just talked to Mr. York Hughes today on Messenger, and he says he's feeling great. He got off of hospice. Since then, he's built this roof cap. Do you see that name? Man, when he thinks he's down for the count, he might not be, you know. I'd say, Mr. York, you did me a good job. Thank you. When Mr. York Hughes told me how to put these feeders in and how to put the cables and pulleys and everything to make them work, he said, whatever you do, don't use rope. Well, I got to the hardware store and I started comparing prices. And you see, I got cable. Anybody want to buy some rope?